Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
8:07 on this day before the election. A lot is at stake. Two very different visions of what's America's going to be in the days ahead to be decided. And we're going to take more of your calls coming up after we get through this next interview. But this next interview, by the way, quite interesting. We have on the line the Comptroller from the state of Maryland, Peter Franchot. And why is that important? Well, because he's been on the record lately talking about Question 7, which would expand gambling in the state of Maryland. He says that it's a lie to say that the existing slots program or the new casino that's proposed in Question 7 will bring in new education dollars. Mr. Franchot, I guess my first question is, why do you think that's a lie? Because I've heard the governor say otherwise.
Well, I'm the chief financial officer for the state, and I deal in numbers and facts. I see the figures come in every day, and I can categorically state to the people of Maryland that this new casino referendum that they get to vote on Question 7, will not bring in any new education funding to the state of Maryland. And, that's because I signed the checks. I see the actual figures. Other people have opinions, I guess, or hopes, and they make statements that they think will get people to vote for more gambling. But, I say to people, you can love gambling, but don't vote for gambling because you think it'll increase education funding.
Well, why are we
facts are different?
Why are we being told by the governor of the state of Maryland and many other elected officials in the state of Maryland, a lot of county executives, that it will go to education? I mean, I saw the governor in an ad say, "Look, I'm the governor, and I'll make sure it happens."
Well,
why do you say otherwise?
You'll have to ask him because it hasn't happened. What's happened over the last couple of years, because once again, I get the money that comes into the state. I vote on the money going out. I've paid out to the gambling companies $266 million of taxpayers' money to buy the slot machines in the existing program, not the new program, the existing program. We have to date taken in $220 million for the Education Trust Fund, as it's called. So we're still in the red, number one. Number two, when the $220 million goes into the Education Trust Fund, it's subtracted from the other side of the education budget, which is, $5 or $6 billion. So there's no new education funding. It is a
shell game?
It is a shell game, and it's also, but it's very effective with the public. When you go to the public and say, "Look, we know you don't like gambling. We know you don't think Las Vegas and Maryland makes sense, but please do it for the kids and do it for education." Well, that argument has been demolished, and I hope people vote no on 7 tomorrow.
But considering Governor O'Malley has been so much in favor of this question, Peter Franchot, and to say that it's a lie, those are pretty strong words. There's a gubernatorial campaign coming up in 2014. Have you decided yet whether you're going to jump into that fray, or have you ruled it out?
I haven't made any decision. Because
now would be a great time to make an announcement, sir.
And frankly, it's probably not that good for me politically, because a lot of people instinctively kind of enjoy gambling, see it as an entertainment. I say to them, look, there's lots of gambling in Maryland right now. Don't worry, you've got plenty of slot machines. But the kind of special session and this new expansion and the tax cut where they're going to reduce up to 25% the taxes on the casino moguls, that's one half step away from political corruption and having the state run by these Las Vegas casinos.
And you think that's a real danger if this question passes?
I know it is, based on the history of gambling in Maryland, number one. Number two, the special session in August, which was a smoke-filled back room with just a couple of people. The public wasn't really allowed in. And number three, the idea of giving a 25% tax cut to millionaire casino owners right after they've raised taxes on the rest of Marylanders. I tell people, why would we ever want to mimic West Virginia, which doesn't have good schools, doesn't have a good economy? Why don't we look to Virginia, which does have a good economy, does have good employment, does have good wage growth in contrast to Maryland, and they don't have any gambling.
I've covered you since the mid-'80s.
Yes.
And I remember when you were, a Montgomery County official, and I've followed your career for many, many years. And there are a lot of people that are looking at Peter Franchot these days and saying, Man, that's very different from the Peter Franchot I remember. Why have you become so adamant about the way money is being spent in the state of Maryland, the way we tax people, and about this issue when it comes to gambling?
Well, I kid people and say I'm a recovering legislator because I was there for 20 years, and sure, I don't have clean hands, and I love my former colleagues, but as comptroller for the last 6 years, I actually see the money that comes in every day. I vote on how it goes out on the Board of Public Works. I can very emphatically tell people that we have a spending problem in the state, and as a result, we're taxing too much. We're taking out too much debt. We're spending on programs that don't get good results. And I'm a Democrat, so I'm not against government. I'm just saying we need efficiency, we need accountability, and this gambling adventure that we're headed out on is really 100 miles an hour in a negative direction. It's not good for the state, doesn't produce new revenues of any significance, doesn't produce new education funding. The jobs are essentially subtracted from the other casinos, so it's just not a good economic development model. There are other alternatives, like Virginia to our south, where there's no gambling and where they have an economy which is in much more recovery than Maryland's right now.
But let's get more into detail on that, Peter Franchot, because obviously the language is in there about education because people are swayed by that. If people vote for this, many of them are doing it because they want to increase funding in education. You know what the numbers look like. You keep pointing to Virginia as a model. Well, doesn't Virginia have a much lower tax structure than Maryland does? Are you suggesting that to boost the economy in Maryland, we should lower taxes?
I'm suggesting that we should stay where we are for 2 years and have no tax increases, fee increases, toll increases, or other things that take money out of consumers' pockets. We're a consumer-driven economy in Maryland. We need to appreciate that consumers need stability and certainty as far as their own budgets. Sure, is Maryland a better state than Virginia? Absolutely. But can we learn something from Virginia about managing our money, about spending the taxpayers' dollars efficiently without waste? Boy, you bet we can. And we should start by defeating Question 7, because Question 7 goes the other way. It just brings in another, whatever they bring in, $100 million and gives it to the governor and the legislature, and they go ahead and spend it on whatever they want to. It clearly does not go to education because those levels are set by statute, regardless of whether we have gambling or not. We're going to spend exactly the same amount we spent last year and this year on education.
Maryland Comptroller Peter Franchot, thank you so much for joining us here. We greatly appreciate it.
Great talking to you guys, and thanks for giving me a call. I appreciate it. Good luck on Election Day.
I think what you have to say is really interesting. I mean, when you hear somebody go on record, Larry O'Connor, and say, the governor is lying, and if you vote for gambling, you're going to mob up the state.
Yes,
I mean, that's
what he said.
My goodness.
They're lying to you, and let's bring in Tony Soprano.
That's right.